Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Infinity Well. I'm Larry Stahl. Finally, back with another video. I've been busy with some stuff, and I am going to have to catch up, especially on House of X and Powers of X, which Jonathan Hickman is killing it right now. I'm just going to let some people file in. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff has been going down. San Diego Comic-Con happened, and I have yet to do a video on Phase 4. Hopefully I can have a guest on so that way I will be able to talk that over with somebody. Yeah, this book has me so pumped, and I was so ready to talk about it. Also, if any of you are interested, no clue if you are, the copy that I got was the Ron Lim variant, which, usually I'm the kind of guy who likes to get the just like the standard copy, because it's kind of like that's what they intended. But this cover right here was actually pretty cool. I love that depiction, especially because Ron Lim is like such a classic Venom artist. Did a lot of work on Venom back in the day. I think he did half of Lethal Protector. Did a lot of miniseries. Most recently, I think he did that book, The First Host, written by Costa, alongside Mark Bagley. And I really wish that Mark Bagley would actually finish a miniseries, which right now is Spider-Man Life Story. He's doing pretty good on that, and I will probably talk about Spider-Man Life Story as soon as that wraps up. The last issue should be coming out this month, if I'm not mistaken. So that's got me pretty stoked. I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, so a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully, I plan to do a lot of things. I have a lot of collaborations that I am wanting to do with the channel, the Game Plan. Primarily a gaming YouTuber, but he is a friend of mine. As a matter of fact, it's for those of you who enjoy my Guardians of the Galaxy live stream. It was Skylar Mazel, who was a guest on that with us. He started his own YouTube channel, and he's going to start posting Saturday, I believe it is. So as soon as I possibly can, I'm going to plug him, and he's gonna be showing up on my stuff a lot. I'll be showing up on his stuff a lot. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that because I think right now he's playing the game. Trying to think of what that name is. Whatever. As soon as I remember what it is, I'll fill you guys in and leave a link somewhere for you guys to check him out, because I'm pretty excited to see what kind of content he's going to be posting. But yeah, I'm sorry about the super long wait. A lot of different reasons for waiting so long. I guess the easiest reason to go on about is probably just because Endgame left me so speechless. I swore up and down I was going to do a video essay, and I probably will now. Especially because I've got a better idea of what I want to do, and it's going to be coming out on Blu-ray soon. I know it's out on digital right now. I also told myself I was going to talk about Dark Phoenix, and then I saw the reviews for it, and it was 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, nope, never mind. We're not gonna be talking about that. But yeah, so I don't know. Things are gonna be on the up and up on this channel. Hopefully, I'll probably be doing a lot more uploads, a lot of different formats and things like that. I'm gonna be trying out a few different things here and there. But yeah, let's see here. Waiting for that clock to hit 5:30. There it goes, and any of you who might just now be joining, hello and welcome to the Infinity Well. I am Larry Stahl, and I need to talk about this book, Absolute Carnage, and everything that has been leading up to it, which in a weird way, literally any time a symbiote has ever shown up, has been leading to this moment. This was written by Donny Cates, and the art was by Ryan Stegman. And those two first started teaming up together when they first started their run on Venom. I believe we're we're getting close to issue 20 on the Venom run right now, and believe it or not, I did not start reading Venom when it started. I actually jumped on issue 7, but issue 7 was not my first Venom book from their run, because comic book store I go to, they used to be Cameron's Comics and things here in Bowling Green, Ohio, and that they ended up changing their name to Sweet Tooth Comics, which I think it's really cool. But I remember they had gotten in their shipment from Diamond of all the books that were coming out, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and we have this trade of Venom by Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman. This copy is damaged, so we're gonna like half price it." And I was thinking like, well, I did just see the Venom movie, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So maybe I can grab this book and read it and see what I think of it. And upon doing that, I have never been happier that I decided to take a shot in the dark with Venom. Because like usually like Venom books, they're kind of lame, depending on what it is. You know, don't get me wrong, but like you have all these like miniseries in the '90s, like Funeral Pyre and Lethal Protector. Lethal Protector is probably the coolest out of all of them, but I digress. I read the first 6 issues of that trade. I think I just read it in one sitting. It just wrapped me in. All this stuff with Noel the Symbiote God and all of this crazy stuff with, you know, you've got like the giant dragon. I'm trying to the Grendel. That's what it was. Miles Morales showing up and taking on symbiotes. Acknowledgement of the Ultimate Universe was another thing that really threw me off, because the universes merged during the Secret Wars event, and there hasn't really been any acknowledgement of the Ultimate Universe. But Donny Cates is constantly calling back to that in his Venom run, which leads me to believe that might be the next step that they go to, which I would love. But the book was just so great, and it showed that like Eddie's relationship with the Venom symbiote is almost like an addiction, and it correlates very well with a lot of addicts who are trying to quit, addicts who are trying to subdue their urges and their withdrawals, and it covered a lot of really good ground for like a first 6 issues of a book, and it just surprised the hell out of me. So the first thing I did is I went out and I bought annual #1. Had all sorts of different creators on there. It had Donny Cates, Ron Lim. It went through the whole shebang. And then I grabbed issue 7. And then after, well, I mean, all in the same place at the same time. And I also grabbed Web of Venom, Carnage Born. And oh my God, like this Venom book has been so good. It's actually making Eddie into a character. He's not just this character who's like, I hate Spider-Man, but I'll protect the innocent. It goes far beyond that. Like, it turns out that Eddie likes protecting innocent people because Eddie himself thinks of himself as a sinner, because you get these flashes of a kid who was hit by a car from Eddie's past, supposedly, and you're like, okay, what does this have to do with anything? And then it turns out that, and the book leads you to believe that it was Eddie as a young boy who was hit by a car. And then you end up realizing that Eddie was not hit by the car. He was in the car that hit the kid. He was drunk driving, and you know, his dad like used his money to get Eddie out of like having to serve any time or pay any fees or anything like that, by getting Eddie to lie. And so like he feels bad about it, and so that's why he feels like he needs to protect the innocent, because he did the wrong thing a very long time ago, and he feels like he can never live up to that. And it's so good, and it deepens Eddie's character. And then now we have this whole relationship with him and Dylan Brock, who at first you think that it's Eddie's little brother, because the second story arc has to do with Eddie's dad and the coming of Carnage and whatnot. It's called The Abyss. But but then you figure out the symbiote has been messing with Eddie's mind and making him remember and forget things or whatever to make sure that Eddie doesn't leave the symbiote. And one of those things was that Eddie had a kid named Dylan. So Eddie Brock has a kid, and he ended up taking the kid away from Eddie's dad. Like Eddie took the kid away from his own dad, Eddie's dad, because he was very abusive and still hates Eddie after all these years. And so he takes the kid and runs with him, but he doesn't have the heart to tell him, like, hey, like, I'm your real dad, because he doesn't want Dylan to get hurt. And just all of these crazy things. And now we have this weird dynamic with Venom where not only is he now a very sympathetic character who actually has a lot of pathos, but now he also has a kid that he has to try to protect on top of all of it, and it's so great. All of this has been leading up. I pulled everything off to the side that involves all of this. You got Web of Venom Carnage Born, Web of Venom Unleashed. You've got a Web of Venom Cult of Carnage, Web of Venom Funeral Pyre, the Free Comic Book Day issue, which leads right into Absolute Carnage, and then, of course, the first issue of Absolute Carnage, which just came out yesterday. All of that crazy stuff went down, and I gotta say, it's all been sort of leading somewhere. You keep seeing all of this stuff about Carnage throughout the whole thing, and like the symbiote, and they had this whole thing about God is coming, and like these big swirly symbols, like you see on Carnage's forehead here, that'll appear in the eyes of somebody who is possessed by a symbiote, or when the symbiote decides to take over and make the host body go on autopilot. That's kind of what happens, and it's so good. Jumping into what's going on with Carnage and all of that. Carnage is like fried. Okay, when we first meet him, Cletus Cassidy is essentially dead. All right, he is dead, and he has this cult who all of these years have worshipped him. Their religion is of Null, like the symbiote god. And they worship Cletus Cassidy almost as if he is like a Christ-like figure. Like if Null is God, then Cletus Cassidy is like Jesus. And they want the second coming to happen. And so all of these people get together who have worn symbiotes before, and they use a piece of the Grendel dragon symbiote or whatever from the first arc of Venom to revive Cletus Cassidy. And pretty much Cletus Cassidy is like fried body gets like consumed by a piece of symbiote who has been controlled by Null before, and pretty much revives him. And so Carnage realizes he wants to be the most powerful symbiote. He will be able to kill the most people that way. Because that's kind of the messed up thing about Carnage. Carnage, he's almost like Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight, of where he's just like, he has no end goal. There's no end game to anything that he is doing. He is doing it simply because it is fun to him, and that I think is like the coolest thing ever. And so he wants to be the most powerful symbiote, so that way he can do those things. And I believe it is also said that he wants to revive Null, who was killed in the first arc of Venom. Eddie threw him into an incinerator, which was really cool. And so Carnage, he takes a sacrifice of the person who was the head of the cult and just eats them and eats their fucking spine. It's so cool and gross. Like he like eats the person whole and then just pulls out the skull and spine. And he's like, that's great. Because the thing is, all of the people who have had symbiotes attached to them previously still have a little piece of symbiote inside of them, even if they haven't worn the symbiote in years. It kind of leaves like a lining in their DNA. And so for Carnage to possibly revive Null and become the most powerful symbiote, he has to consume all of the codexes that have been spread throughout the Marvel Universe over the course of years, which means literally everybody is a target. It's so cool. Like they go on about this thing like John Jameson, because in Jerry Conway's previous Carnage run, And in the Cult of Carnage issue that came out leading up to this, which was one of the best issues of this whole thing so far. Probably like at least number 2 and number 3, because number 1 is obviously the first issue of the event. But because John Jameson had dealt with the symbiotes before, he has a codex inside of him. Norman Osborn, who is the Red Goblin at the end of Dan Slott's Amazing Spider-Man run, he has a codex inside of him. Anybody who a symbiote has ever touched, which they play up the fact that like Spider-Man, Wolverine, just any hero who's ever worn it, like even like Silver Surfer, I believe had the Carnage symbiote at one point. Or maybe I'm thinking about that wrong. I'm gonna need to like try to find those issues and read them. But like just a lot of people are targets. And so now Carnage must feast. And so everybody's lives have been kind of merging onto this one point. And Eddie and Dylan, after the events of the first arc Rex, the second arc Abyss, and then the third arc War of the Realms, which that's a Thor tie-in thing. It doesn't really have a lot to do with everything going on. The only reason that arc is really important is because it kind of strengthens the relationship between Eddie and Dylan. Pretty much like Eddie and Dylan find themselves back in New York, and they're kind of like living like in an abandoned warehouse. Living in an abandoned warehouse, trying to live their best life, because Eddie is like doing small favors to make money, which that was actually really good. The last single issue of Venom that came out before this came out, there was like a really cool, just small like one issue story where it's like Eddie and the symbiote are separated. They actually have been since the end of the second arc, the Abyss, because the symbiote realizes that like maybe it's not best for him to be attached to Eddie despite everything that's happened, so he leaves. So Eddie and the symbiote are separated, and so he has to find a way to make an honest living and make money so that way he can take care of his kid, who, again, Dylan doesn't know that Eddie is his dad. He only thinks that Eddie is his brother. And so jumping back onto what's going on here. So they're back in New York, and they're just trying to like keep a low profile, and they're walking down the street, and all of a sudden Eddie Brock's face is posted everywhere, all over Times Square, like this man just escaped Rikers and is wanted. And so Eddie and Dylan are like trying to run away and get away. And the reason for Eddie Brock suddenly, like out of nowhere, being a wanted man, even though Eddie has been clean for quite some time of like doing any actual crime, I guess as far as like, if you don't count vigilantism, is that a word, vigilantism? Being a vigilante, Eddie has been clean this whole time, for quite some time. And so the reason that suddenly Eddie Brock is the most wanted man of all time is because Carnage needed to find a way to go to Rikers and get the codex out of a previous symbiote user by the name of Lee Price. And so what he does is he acts like, and this is in the Free Comic Book Day issue that like jumps right into where Absolute Carnage starts. Carnage like morphs himself to look like Eddie Brock, turns himself in for a crime. Hence, it's not really specific as to what the crime is, but like, he has himself turned in as Eddie Brock. And he goes into this prison, and he's been pretending to be Eddie Brock as a prisoner this whole time. He gets a hold of Lee Price, turns into Carnage, he doesn't turn into Carnage. As Eddie Brock, he kills Lee Price and eats his codex, and then escapes in like a Venom-looking symbiote form, not quite Carnage, and he takes off. And so that's why Eddie is wanted now. And so Eddie is like running away, trying to get away with Dylan, trying to get on the subway to get somewhere where they can kind of like find some help, because this entire time, all these issues in this Web of Venom story that have been leading up to this event all have Eddie having these experiences with people who are being possessed by Carnage, who personally like get in the path of what Eddie is doing to be like, God is coming. Like, be ready. Like, our God is going to be alive. And so like Eddie knows that this is Carnage just toying with him and messing. And I think that's like so cool. But like the whole story pretty much ends up being like like Carnage finds them and tries to kill them, and like it's so good. It's so good. I don't even know if I like necessarily like want to spoil what happens in Absolute Carnage. Just know that there is like a really cool team up with Eddie Brock and Spider-Man. This is the first time they've seen each other in years, or at least that's what they kind of make it feel like it is. I know that like stories like Venom Inc. happened and all of that, but just like in terms of this run, they make it feel like it's been years since they've seen each other. But like Eddie and Peter are actually getting along, and Eddie is kind of like put it behind him, everything that's happened in the past, and he's just like, no, this is what's important. And so like that's a really cool dynamic I didn't think we would ever see with those characters, like them just getting along and not having any like bullshit in between them about like, oh, like you had me framed, or oh, I thought you were dead, like nothing like that. And I think that's really great. So much other good stuff happens in this book. Cletus Cassidy, Carnage, is the thumbnail of this video should show you. He's like this weird skeleton with goat legs, and like his eyes glow. He's got that swirling symbol. God, Ryan Stegman's art in this book is beautiful and creepy. It feels like a horror book, like by colors wise, but the art just screams like a mix between like Eric Larson, Mark Bagley, and Todd McFarlane, who are like probably like in my top 10 Spider-Man artists ever. It's like a mix of all of their styles together to just create this like perfect world. Ryan Stegman's art has never been better than on this book. And just the story of this book is just absolutely phenomenal. I am in love with Donny Cates' run on Venom and his run on the Guardians, which here after this next arc is over, unless anybody is interested, like go ahead and like leave a comment and tell me if you want me to cover all of Donny Cates' stuff so far, like from Thanos, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Thanos Rising, and then Guardians of the Galaxy. Like if anybody's interested in that, I can totally do that because I'm like a huge Guardians fan, and Donny Cates is killing it over there too. But this book is just so awesome, and I never thought that I would fall in love with the character of Venom the way that I have with this book. I like Venom, don't get me wrong. I just like him as a Spider-Man villain. And so I never bothered like reading any like solo Venom stories except for like Dark Origin, I think was one of the few books that I'd read where like he was like the protagonist, that Leave the Protector. I guess if you want to count Maximum Carnage, but that's not really from Eddie's perspective. But this is all really good stuff. The stakes have never been higher. You have a return of characters like the Maker, who is becoming more and more prominent in the Marvel landscape as of late. And okay, all right. So y'all remember, like I think it was last year, they did the Marvel Knights 20th anniversary, like for the Marvel Knights line that like got the Marvel Universe back up and running where it needed to be with Kevin Smith's Daredevil, Christopher Priest, Black Panther, yada yada. Well, Donny Cates, because he's such a big fan of the Marvel Knights line that came out back then, they let him write the 20th anniversary like of the book, like the little mini series that they did, which I read the first issue of and I really liked. I still need to get back on Marvel Unlimited and try to read the rest of that. But next year is going to be the 20th anniversary of the Ultimate Universe. And so like there are implications in this Absolute Carnage book that the Maker is trying to like get something up and running that might have to do with that. Like he has a bigger plan that he's just not going to talk about. excuse me, he has a bigger plan that he's just not going to talk about just yet. And the Maker is becoming more and more prevalent. That, and Donny Cates has like acknowledged that the Ultimate Universe exists in his books as well, and has gone on record to say that he would love to write Ultimate Universe stuff. And so I wonder if the Ultimate Universe is going to be coming back. Like, maybe Marvel likes to jump from event to event, and so maybe this absolute carnage thing that's going on right now, like, is leading up to like the return of the Ultimate Universe or something, or at least like some sort of like 20th anniversary kind of story. I feel like that would be really cool. But yeah, just Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman are killing it on this book. Um, I don't think it's going to take too long for the entire mini, or I guess, well, mini series or maxi series. It's definitely an event. And so I am going to try to read as much of that as I can when it comes to like tie-ins and things. And then I can come back here and I can talk about the entire event as a whole. But yeah, just so far, without spoiling anything, this book is amazing. It's got perfect atmosphere, very well written. I really want Donny Cates to write a Spider-Man book, even if it, because I love Nick Spencer's run, and I don't want him to interrupt that. But like, if they were to give Donny Cates like give him Spectacular Spider-Man or something, like, I would read the shit out of that book. But yeah, just Donny Cates doing a great job. Ryan Stegman's art has never been better. It looks fantastic. The coloring is amazing, and I cannot wait for the next issue of this to come out, because I believe this is bi-weekly, if I'm not mistaken. Except for the last issue. I think the last issue comes out in like September. I don't know. I'm really excited for this, though. Go ahead and leave a comment. What do you guys think of the event? Leave a like if you like this video. Dislike if you dislike it. You know, it doesn't matter much to me. Whatever your opinion is, your opinion is. Just don't be afraid to voice it in the comments. Yeah, so that's really it. I could probably also, if you guys are interested, I could do like a story arc by story arc of this series as well, because this is something that I would love to dig into. Because there's a lot of like really cool parallels and themes and things in here that we could talk about and explore. Like, Eddie Brock is finally a character that we could like psychoanalyze, and that is the most fascinating thing to me, because I never thought I'd be able to say that. At least for the 616 Eddie Brock. Ultimate Universe Eddie Brock's a different story. But yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. I had a really fun time talking about this book, and I'm very excited to keep covering it. I'm going to see if I can do some sort of a House of X and Powers of X thing coming up. Probably going to wait until Powers of X #2 comes out. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Like I said, like, dislike, comment, and shit, if you want to stick around and you like all the content that we're throwing up, don't be afraid to subscribe. So thank you very much. This has been Larry Stahl from the Infinity Wall signing off. And face front, true believers, this is the end of the video.